Welcome, yo. Spliffi, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Hi, guys. I'm Spliffi, and yeah, I really enjoy being on this podcast. And go for it. Let's talk about plants, brother. Yeah. I'm Spliffy, and I do some work on Facebook where I take photos. And this all started. Let's be, let's get to the part where before it started, I was actually very against it. I was like, no, man, cis, man. I follow the narrative very strictly. And there was a point where, in my late 20s, you go to a party and there's someone just talking on something. You wonder, what's happening. And I took a few drags, and obviously you're in that party mode, but it felt good. Like something felt different, right? But yeah, I was like very against it. And after that, there was a point where I got kind of curious because I noticed, hey, I'm really feeling better when I'm using this. So something's up. And I was like wondering, how can this benefit me? And I went out and got some and tested it alone at home. And I really felt better that day. So in my mind, I have some personal stuff that I dealt with, and because of that, the cannabis made it so much better to deal with. And I said, "Hey, listen, everybody is shunning this plant, but there is application. If it definitely works for me, it can definitely works for someone out there. I'm not saying all of us are the same, but I definitely saw that there is a application to it, and using it from that point." Um, was a feeling that I really can't describe, but there's a calmness. And then it came to the next snag. Where do you get? Okay, so getting from friends was easy, and getting as gifts, but going out into situations and sketchy places to go get just wasn't working for me. Like I wasn't into that. And because I was smoking and had got some from friends, I obviously got some bag seeds. So planted some seeds one day outdoor. Didn't know the season. Didn't know where to plant, what soil, what to do. No idea. I just stick those seeds in the ground, and they germinated. And there was a point where I was like, hey, this can work, So my I started outdoor and through a few years outdoor, trying out autos, trying out photo periods, trying out bag seeds, trying out whatever I could find outdoors. I was lucky to be in the position where I had a little courtyard where I could grow some. And every moment it just kind of escalated with every grow because every grow was like, hey, listen, I can see something's up here. I can learn from this, and this is how this works. And then you get into this deep rabbit hole where you're like, hey, listen, I'm either going to grow or I'm just not going to do it at all. And then you become a grower. So, yeah. Yeah. So, I tried a greenhouse experiment which totally failed. I stick to outdoor for a long while. And then I got lucky and I got a sponsorship with a tent from a grow shop. And the whole thing actually opened as soon as I went into indoor because suddenly I had this space where I had to create an environment, right? Outdoors where I am resided currently, the seasons aren't perfect for cannabis because you are looking at something that grows in a tropical forest, right? And trying to recreate those conditions outside, which is not in my control. And a lot of guys lose faith because they probably don't stay, everybody stays somewhere else. So the weather is different. So everybody can't just get massive plants outside. But as soon as you cross over to inside, the whole creating an environment really actually the light bulb went on. So um, indoor, I YouTube was my friend. So I was YouTubing and going to people and checking out grows and checking and asking like, why is my plants, why didn't they perform outdoors, but indoors it's starting to look great. And then I realized like the stages, there's the different stages of a plant have different environmental conditions. Um, a few things that I can talk about today is like the main things that you are looking at is you are looking at the seed stage, what conditions you need to meet in the seed stage, then in the vegetative stage, what conditions, and the same for the flowering stage, what conditions, and then when you are drying, the most important part, what conditions you need to meet. And those conditions can be summarized into categories, like for instance, VPD. VPD, man, it made such a big change in my grows. It's a phenomenal thing because VPD is basically the relation between temperature and humidity, right? So the temperature and humidity should be different from seed stage to seedling stage to veg stage and so forth. There is some smart guys out there that created a chart called a VPD chart, and you basically have to stick within those categories, like where, in which stage are you, and in this stage, the humidity and the temperature are different. Like for instance, in the seed stage, when it's basically a seed, it obviously wants a dry environment, as dry as possible, because you don't want it to germinate. Moving from seed to seedling, you want it 90 to 100% humidity because you need to germinate the seed. And then moving to veg stage, your humidity should be about 70 to 80%. And then when you go into flower, it should be around 60%, but that all should be related to the temperature. You can't go into 80% humidity, but you have a temperature of like 19 and 18 because it just does not, they just don't balance according to the VPD chart. So following a VPD chart is a game changer. And then when you look at your light, DLI is the next part of it. Like, do your plants actually get sufficient light? Because it is inside a dark room and you are trying to recreate the sun. And there are some tools that you can use to help you. But are you hitting those DLI numbers? Do you have a correct PPFD? Is actually something called a PPFD app that you can install on your iPhone or on your Android, and you can use it to measure the light's intensity, the PPFD of the light. And again, in different stages, there's different light. Like for instance, in seedling stage, you're looking at 200 ppfd, which I like to go a bit less always. I'll get to that, but I like about 150. And then when you go to veg stage, your ppfd should be about 400. And when you go to flowering stage, it should be about 800. So I am lessening the numbers. You can intensify from those numbers with ppfd, meaning DLI, and the amount of hours. But I have learned that less is more. And then you also have to look at your humidity somehow needs to move outside the tent. There needs to be fresh air that goes into your tent. And that's why you basically have the fans to push them into a certain area and exhaust it and intake it into your tent. And then the rest of the fun stuff comes, like, are you using craft soil? Are you using living soil? Are you using hydro? So there's a whole list of things that you need to get and to make sure that your environment is running. So I mostly grow auto flowers, but I do I have photo periods running now as well for the cup challenge that I'm doing. So the thing with the auto flowers is, like, for a new grower to actually realize what's the difference between a photo period and an auto flower is the photo periods they still run seasonal. So what a photoperiod cannabis plant does is it will go through its normal season by it will start its veg time during the summer, and it will start its flower time before the winter, and it wants to be done by the winter because it is they do die after winter. The thing about autoflowers is that which makes them different is they do not really regard seasons. They grow for between 4 to 5 weeks in veg stage, and then they automatically flip over to flowering stage. So this also has something to do with your lights. Obviously, when a season is changing from summer to winter, the amount of light, the amount of light hours is less during the winter than it is in summer, right? So a photo period inside your tent will still follow those seasons. So to make to turn the season, you have to flip your switch of your light from I do 18 hours of light in veg stage, like summer, and then I flip over to 12 hours of light and 12 hours darkness. So the photo period can realize, hey, I'm going into winter now. I have to start budding. It's end of my season. Where a autoflower just does not regard this. They do what we want. But all the autoflowers that I have grown on week 4 or week 5, maybe latest week 6, depending on how your germination date went, they will automatically flip over to flower. And some people think that you have to set your light when they flip to flower to 12:12. You actually don't. Cannabis and autoflowers are one of the plants that can literally take 24 hours of light. They can handle it, but it's not good for them. Like, they do need that sleep. So I keep them, autoflowers, I keep them 18 hours light. So the amount of energy that they can produce through photosynthesis, if you give them the correct amount of soil and the correct amount of water, they tend to grow from seed to harvest in 90 days, 100 days, depending on what your harvest preference is. If you like to harvest early or mid or late, that's about 3 weeks difference. So it's also up to the grower what you like. Like if you take a late harvest, it's something more sedative. But if you take an early harvest, and that's what I like, it's something that more of a calming effect instead of making you sleep. And so for a new grower, I would recommend actually understanding photo periods first. Like, go with a hard one, understand photo periods, understand where they are moving from summer to a different season, and then recreate those with autoflowers. If you go and you plant an autoflower in the summer outside, even where I'm resided, you just don't get 18 hours of light. So you are going to try to get the best of it. Some people do really good autoflowers outside because they do supplement sunlight, or they just get those right amount of light hours. But in a tent, it is easier to recreate, right? So outside, photo period, grow for the season. That is legendary and that will stay legendary. But indoor, you just have a little bit more control. So yeah. So genetics, man, genetics. There's a huge difference between stable genetics and landrace genetics. So starting off with landrace is, to my understanding, something new, something far out that people haven't really smelled, or they haven't really got that type of color, or it's something new, right? So there are so many different species of cannabis, and cannabis grows all over the world. Like, you get ruderalis and you get indica and sativa, and then you get different colors. That there is a possibility of so many colors and so many smells, and because it's got so many different terpenes, that you will find something new, and you call that then a landrace strain. And then taking that landrace strain home and trying to make it stable is a huge effort. Some guys do some pollen chucking, and then they tell, when it's like, "This is my new strain. I am handing it out," but it just doesn't work that way. So making a strain stable does require you to run a few sets of those plots, and it also depends on what you start with. If you start with feminized seeds, um, or if you start with feminized seeds, you are sure that they are going to come out feminized, right? So you can't breed with it. But if you go and add something called colloidal silver and you spray it on the plant basically gets tricked and then believes that it's going to die because it's getting that stress from the silver. And it then forms something called hermy. So it produces male and female organs on the same plant, right? So this means that if you take that pollen from that male organ and you pollinate that same female, because it hermy that same organ, then you will get feminized seeds out of it. That's basically how you make feminized seeds. So if you want to take a strain, create more feminized seeds, you can do it with one plant. So somewhere along the line, there needs to be a male that's not of the same genes, and then when you mix those two, you get your first set of seeds, and then from there on you go pheno hunting. So you can pheno hunt, obviously depending on how so much space you have, but you can pheno hunt 10 at a time, 50 at a time, whatever space allows you. And then you get your pheno in, let's hope, regular, which can still turn out male or female. So that you can go on with that cycle, or you can just recreate it by using the silver again and making it hermy and recreating those seeds. So, and genes does bring you a long way. Some genes are just so good; they have just so much resistance. Their taste is just so awesome, and it's because these people have put in years and years of work into that gene. For you to go and buy a pack of overseas seeds, doing a pheno hunt is perfectly fine, but from that point, at least go find something like a male, or go find something that you feel, okay, I feel these two, if I cross them, it's going to be worth it. And then take the time to develop that gene that you are working with. And then talking about genes, like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for something that medically helps you with ADHD, for instance? Like White Widow, man, that's amazing for ADHD. Now you get something that works for your condition, but it just doesn't taste that nice. Now you look for a male or a female so that you can crossbreed and then make it stable so that your medicine is actually working for you, and it tastes like strawberries or it tastes like apricot, because there are so many flavors out there. And then there's guys like, they want to create a good looking plant. So you are looking at colors of the pistils, you are looking at the leaf size. So there's so much stuff that you can go and pheno hunt. Like when you do pheno hunting, it's like buying a box of Yu-Gi-Oh cards and looking for the excellent ones, right? Yeah. When it comes to cannabis law, it's far away from where it should be. There's basically no law yet. We're just on that point where, hey, it's okay. It's not the devil's lettuce. It's okay. You can smoke, right? You can smoke in your house. It's okay. But regarding to the money and the funds, there's a few gatekeepers that have to open those floodgates. And what I recently heard from a bill is that they are not really actually suggesting that trading will be available at all. They are strictly on, you can use it at home in your privacy, but they're not working on a way for the local growers and whoever to sell, like physically trade it. But there are obviously some loopholes and things involved with clubs. And I'm not saying all clubs are loopholes or something like that, but there's a genuine work towards let's make it feasible for everybody. And then, like the gatekeepers, like some guys like the medical and the cigarettes and the cigarette tax, like the government makes a lot of money from cigarette tax, right? So those guys also have to be included into the whole mix. And one thing that I can say is that the more we keep it local, the better. Okay, so getting receipts from overseas, getting the stuff here is fine also, but um, it is just so much better if you go to a local place which you know to get seeds from, and they grow locally and they produce it locally, and growing some local strains. To me, that makes more sense. It's not like we stay in Spain, so I support Spain regarding that. Um, there's this discussion about Durban poison. I mean, Durban poison, the strain, it's in the name, Durban poison, right? So those seeds made its way to another country, and those countries started mixing those genes together, and they called it out, and they say Dutch passion is one of theirs, which I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, it's rumors running around, but these things need to. There's obviously talent in South Africa, and these guys must just step up and say, "Hey, we know the law. We are following the law. We only have the limited of plants. We only have limited flowering plants. But hey, we are trying to make a South African product legal so that everybody can actually get something from it. It is possible for sure."
That's really amazing. Brother Spliff, you really dropped a lot of gems, especially for the newer growers, and a lot of advanced techniques and tips as well when it comes to VPD, DLI, PPFD, as well as how you can even measure those things. And I really hope that the South African sphere when it comes to cannabis is really going to go in a very bright direction. We have a new government in South Africa ever since 2024, coming as well with the new deal being signed in the exact same year. So, we're just hoping for the best when it comes to cannabis industry. So thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights.
I really appreciate it, bro. Thank you for having me on here. It really makes a huge shout out to me that someone want to listen to me talking about plants. That's really amazing. I really appreciate it. And to you, man, the work you're doing and the YouTube and the people you're talking to just keep on grinding, keep on going. I feel at this point you've like full on surpassed me because I am competitive. I like being competitive. I like doing contests. I like growing bigger plants, right? It's part of the game for me. And I really think, bro, you're on top, eh? You're missioning past me here.
Thank you so much. Like I said, once you start growing, you never want to stop, So thank you so much, guys. I'm going to definitely leave Spliffi's links to the gram and all these other videos as well. I'm going to definitely tag them in here, maybe after this segment, so you can just see some of the grows there,
Still can't see what you're saying. It just froze.